So the question then is that at what stage did the cow become a sacred animal for particular groups of people? Now, the thing to remember about the cow in India is that it is not sacred for all Hindus. There are Hindus among lower down in the social scale for whom the cow is not sacred, but it is sacred for upper castes. And so the battle over the cow has also in part been a battle between upper castes and lower castes, see? Then, of course, when the slaughter of cows became common, when there were many more people eating beef, which is not just the lower castes and the Dalits, but also the Muslims and the Christians and so on, the issue of the cow became one of caste Hindus versus other religions, primarily Muslim.
Also, one of the parameter of this majoritarian nationalism is to say that you have to consider cow as your mother. So some people believe that cow is their mother. According to their religious belief, cow is their mother. But we cannot say that all the Hindus in India do believe that. There are some Hindus who do not eat beef. There are some who eat beef. There are Muslims who eat beef. There are Dalits who eat beef, like that. But they want to establish that every Indian, if you are a citizen, you have to accept that cow is your mother. What they essentially want to do is to divide the Indian population among Hindus and Muslims. They want to polarize the Hindu vote, and be in power.
In the earliest texts that we have, there is no ban on cow slaughter. And the archaeological evidence also from the cultures that are associated, for example, with some of the sites of the Vedic texts, have produced evidence of the killing of animals for food and the killing of all kinds of animals, including the bones of the cow.
The jobs are divided among castes. So the oppressed caste, the Dalits, they are supposed to skin dead animals and by hand, and that norm still exists in India. They have not mechanized it, because you give this job to the Dalits, you call them untouchable and these things. According to the code that they have decided, that Dalits are oppressed within Hinduism. So the Dalits have also risen against this government, and it shows that religion doesn't matter. You know, people will fight for a country devoid of communal hatred, devoid of caste oppression. And I think it is happening in the rest of the world as well. So we'll evolve our own nationalism based on composite culture, and we'll also, I think, we'll teach the West that this is how nationalism should be.
The devotion to the cow has reached such ridiculous levels that, you know, people have sort of tried to say that the urine of the cow is the, is the modern version of penicillin. You know, you have, you're ill and you drink the cow's urine and you're going to be fine. Recently, just yesterday, day before yesterday, some holy man he said somewhere that, you know, for a mobile phone, the mobile phone is a battery. If you replace the if you sort of fill the battery with cow dung, then you would not need to recharge the battery again and again, you know.
The cow's urine is one of the most potent cleanser that Ayurveda has said. Now, when I mean a cleanser, it means an internal body cleanser. I have come across cases which were told as terminally ill with renal failure and who have just survived for a prolonged period on just cow's urine and cow's milk. The person has to be ready to make these sacrifices of not eating any other food material, but those people who have lived on just plain cow's urine and cow's milk, very, very fast their creatinine levels have reduced.
Worshippers across India have taken their devotion to cows to the extreme by drinking the animal's urine. Ultra-Orthodox Hindu Jarim Singh has consumed cattle's pee every day for the last 10 years, believing it can cure a host of ailments.
The protection of the cow became a political issue in the 19th century. It was fairly ordinarily settled in society before that. Everybody knew who ate beef, everybody knew when a cow died who would come and clear the cow and take it away for it to be skinned and that kind of thing. In the 19th century it became a political issue amongst upper caste Hindus. Now it's become a very important economic issue because the farmer who's not wealthy, and most farmers in this country are not wealthy, when the cow used to become old and non-productive and not of any use to the household, they used to sell it for a small sum of money to people who would either skin it or use the meat. Now, when cow protection came in, that source of income closed for the farmer, and it closed for the people whose livelihood depended on the cow. So there are two categories of people who've been economically very deeply affected by the ban on cow slaughter. And if it continues this way, with the Dalits saying quite rightly that, you know, if you're going to start beating us up, we're not going to touch the cow, there's going to be a crisis.
Cow has become a very, has been projected or tried to be utilized as a very dividing figure in Indian politics, especially in the last 2 years, 1.5 years. Not even one and a half years, in fact, was almost 1 year. So in October last year, we had the killing of Akhlaq in Dadri, very close to Delhi, where he was killed because it was suspected that he had beef in his fridge. And after that, you see almost every week in the newspapers that there's some cow vigilante group which is attacking Dalits, which is attacking minorities. Now, in the name of the cow, any illegal act is deemed to be illegal. You know, so you invoke the figure of the cow and you sort of acquire some sort of legal impunity to your actions, even if you are, you know, killing someone, even if you are beating up someone. So it does not matter. So recently what happened was that there was this group of Dalit boys, young boys, who were picking up carcasses of cows, and there's this vigilante cow protection group, which are in Hindi called Go Rakshak, cow protection. So they came and they beat them up as saying that you had killed these cows. And what happened is that the people who have done it have not yet been arrested. And also immediately after that, a lawmaker from another state, said that anyone who does that deserves to be beaten.
Because these cow vigilante groups, so there are, I would call them terrorist or small terrorist organizations who roam around the country, who look for Muslims who are carrying cattle for any purpose, maybe for dairy purpose. If the driver is a Muslim, they get hold of the driver, they beat him up, they kill them. And now very recently they have started attacking the oppressed caste, that is the Dalits. But the Dalits of Gujarat have started a wonderful movement. They have said that if cow is your mother, you come and clean cow. Do not ask the lower caste to touch it, because when the cow is dead, their dead bodies are there on the streets. None of these guys, who think that India should be run according to some old religious scripture, none of these guys come. None of our Home Minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh, he should come and clean the dead cow carcass. So they are calling it Azadi March, Freedom March, and they are demanding freedom from caste oppression. Even Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who was the chairperson of the Indian Constituent Assembly, he called for annihilation of caste, and he said that for India to become one nation, it cannot become one nation if caste system, which legitimizes hierarchy within human beings in India, Indian people, if it exists, we cannot become one nation. To become one nation, we have to annihilate caste. So that is the thing, that is a movement that is happening.
JNU was founded, it's almost 50 years ago now. It'll be 50 years in, by the end of this decade. And it was founded largely because there was a tremendous pressure on Delhi University. As Delhi expanded as a city, there was more and more demand for education, for university education. In other universities, you're given information, and you're examined on the information you're given. We insist on students going and reading on a subject, which is why we also had a special section in the library which was related to coursework, that you had multiple copies of articles and books. And we insisted that students read these and discuss them in their essays. And the tutorial meetings were meant for that discussion. And that made a lot of difference. It did make students think much more, not only about the subject, but also about the world they were living in. Because once you start asking questions, you don't just stop at the coursework, you start asking questions about the world around you. Primarily you're training students to question knowledge and see whether that knowledge needs to be advanced, and if so, how is it to be advanced? All right, that's an intellectual exercise which you do. But at the same time, that knowledge is related to the society that you come from. It's not an abstract bit of information floating in the air. So that link up between knowledge and society became a very important issue in JNU. And very often then it led to questions like, why are these things happening in Indian society? So, in the History Center we would say, well, there's a history to this, and then you would look into the history of it, and finally come up with the question of how do we change it, if we want to change it. Then that is a process at which efforts of social activism become important.
Because of the tradition of student politics here, students do not, abide by or do not believe what the government of the day or what our so-called traditional knowledge teaches us about inequality, about legitimizing inequality, about legitimizing communalism. JNU is known as a left campus where people have accepted left ideology and they dream for an egalitarian world. Firstly, politically. Secondly, this is one of the campuses where you get, where the tuition fee is the cheapest. It's unbelievably cheap. And also in a world, in a country when, you are being told that you will have to, if you want to study, you will have to pay for it. That education is a commodity which you have to buy. But JNU student movement has always resisted any fee hike, and it has ensured that people from the most deprived regions of this country can dream of coming to the best university of this country, and the best university is not reserved for the most privileged. And you see people not only coming here and studying, they also become student union leaders. They become leaders of students of the entire nation. I have two examples in mind. Say, for example, the last year's student union general secretary, Comrade Chintu Kumari, she belongs to a Dalit family. She belongs to a very poor family in Bihar. She came here, she studied, she became a general secretary and a very popular leader. The current general secretary, Comrade Rama Naga, he comes from a Dalit family in Orissa. Dalit is the oppressed caste in India. You do not accept that to be successful academically, you need to come from a privileged background, and also to become a popular leader, you have to have good connections. That stereotype JNU has broken.
Basically, I belong from India's state, that state called in Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh is a big state. Its population is very big in India, and there is lots of problems in UP. I am not going in that situation, but the problems of Dalits is not only the issue is only one state. It's a common all over India. Dalit means the name of humiliations. Dalit means the names of atrocities. That's the name, because most of Dalits, wherever they are, they face lots of problems. Lots of problems, not socially, politically and culturally. Socially, they face big humiliation by upper caste, feudal, Brahmanical forces. When I was child, we will not think like this, because our mind is not so fertile to look about the discrimination. There is very cleverly discrimination. When I was in high schools and in my secondaries, we are not able to understand the nature of discrimination. When we become the matured and we come in graduation, we feel the discrimination in institutions. The professors, the teacher will discriminate you in the class. They will not give even being a talented, being a good performance in class, they will not consider you as a good students because of your caste. When they know about your caste, they will not appreciate you. So they always try to humiliate you, try to push down, and they always prefer the students who come from their social backgrounds. This is the main the Brahmanical attitude here.
Now it's very difficult. How does one send a message? The only message, as a teacher, the only message that I would like to give is that if you're interested in anything Indian, please read as much as you can about it. Don't go by what is said on the social media or on the other media, because the media today can be, not always, but can be unreliable. So if you're interested in something Indian, please take the trouble to read as much as you can about it.
We are fighting our own struggle here. We also look up to the people in the Western countries to fight the struggle within their nation and also join hands with us for a better society where all human beings, irrespective of their skin color, irrespective of their nation, fight for equality.
I mean, I will try not to sound very cliched, but I think it's important that people in Switzerland actually understand that what India is going through right now, because there's a very strong attempt by the Indian government to project India which is growing, India which is shining. I think this is a government which actually wants to undo many achievements, many things which Indian democracy has achieved, which Indian civilization has achieved for a long time. So one thing I hope is that if our Prime Minister goes to Switzerland, because he is very fond of travelling abroad, I hope that our friends in Switzerland will sort of register the protest at least.
I mean, looking at pre and post-colonial settings, I mean, India became a nation during this time as a modern state. So, I mean, the very idea of classifying these castes was done on the basis of that. I mean, the surveys and the objectification that was done. So, one needs to ask where were these institutions created, by whom and for what purpose? Then, I mean, then only we can ask, I mean, how were these classifications done or rigidified, I mean, in the modern state?
Whatever idea is being projected from the government or anyone is fine, but the only sad thing I can see that people are actually following it, and people are actually following, majority is actually following it because majority is Hindu. So it's a situation that I can really not say anything, but it's everything said in the movie. It's a good movie, though.
One point was that the movie is biased in a sense that it does not present the other side of the views, and it would have been a better film had you presented the other side as well, and only then these arguments would have found a value in a sense. Out of the blue, these things appear slightly off the mark.
The figure of the cow as such has now come to be of relevance, but has been present in spaces maybe not recognized earlier the way it is being recognized today. And that is something I felt that the movie could have reflected on, maybe the way this this negotiation or this dialogue has been engaged with in other spaces, maybe domestic, if not, or maybe private.
Sure. So I think there are like at least two sides to this debate, and this movie reflects upon a particular side and from a particular perspective.
So I feel that this cow politics has become a more an instrument of most of the political parties right now, an instrument in terms of dominating on certain group of peoples in number of ways.
One of the question I want to ask is, from historically in Brahmanic literature, it was many of the points, many of the places it was written that cow can be eaten. We can eat cow. It was written like that. But from which part of the history cow became sacred? Is that really 19th century as said by Romila Thapar in this, or before there, are there any incidences like this? This is a question I want to ask.
We all float down in plastic feeders out of the room where love was tender. Some of us both forget forever, and some of it lost, but we stick together. We stood up and flowed, we did get better. Put on a smile every right hour. Drift away while I read newspaper. Put on a shell, take it out right after. Let me go out with my jackets and leather. More to say.